Hey, welcome back to Your Behavior Code. In this video, we're going to talk about something millions of people experience every single day at work, but almost nobody talks about out loud. Why being around certain authority figures makes you feel small, uncertain, and strangely younger than you actually are. It's not in your head, and it's not a coincidence. So sit back, because this one is going to change how you see every power dynamic you've ever been in. And if you're new here, subscribe and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more than you think. You walked into that meeting as a capable adult. You have years of experience. You know your work. You've handled difficult situations, made good decisions, built things you're proud of. And then your boss walked in and something shifted. Your voice got slightly quieter. Your posture changed. You second-guessed the sentence you were about to say. You laughed a little too quickly at something that wasn't that funny. And when they looked at you with that expression, you felt it. That familiar shrinking. That sudden uncertainty about whether you were enough. You walked out of the room feeling smaller than when you walked in. And the worst part? You couldn't explain why. Stay with me. Because the answer has nothing to do with your confidence, your ability, or your worth. And everything to do with one of the oldest programs your brain has ever run. Think about the last time you were around someone who held power over you. Maybe it was your boss, maybe it was a senior colleague, a parent, a teacher, someone whose approval felt like it mattered more than it logically should. Did you choose your words more carefully than usual? Did you find yourself agreeing with things you weren't sure you agreed with? Did you feel an inexplicable need to justify yourself, even when nobody asked? Did you feel, just for a moment, like you were 12 years old again? This isn't weakness. This isn't insecurity. This is one of the most consistent, deeply wired responses in all of human psychology. And the people at the top of power structures, whether they know it or not, are triggering it every single day. Here's what's actually happening inside you when authority enters the room. Your brain doesn't process power through its rational adult centers. It processes it through something much older, much faster, and much harder to override. When you encounter someone your brain categorizes as dominant, higher status, more control, more resources, a cascade of neurological and hormonal responses fires before you've had a single conscious thought. Your cortisol levels rise, your body enters a mild stress state, and your brain activates what psychologists call automatic deference, a deeply wired tendency to yield, to minimize yourself, to avoid triggering conflict with someone your nervous system has flagged as a threat. This response was not designed for offices. It was designed for survival. For most of human history, challenging someone higher in the social hierarchy was genuinely dangerous. The leader of the group controlled access to food, protection, and belonging. Defying them wasn't brave. It was potentially fatal. Your brain still runs that calculation every single time. And then there's a second layer that makes this even more specific to you. Psychologists call it transference. It's the unconscious process of mapping feelings, expectations, and emotional patterns from important past relationships, usually parents, onto authority figures in the present. Your boss isn't just your boss. Somewhere below conscious awareness, they have inherited the emotional weight of every authority figure who ever made you feel small, uncertain, or in need of approval. When your manager gives you a look of disappointment, you don't just feel professionally concerned. You feel something older, something that has been waiting in your nervous system since you were a child, standing in front of someone who had total power over your world. Now here's where it stops being fascinating and starts being something you need to pay attention to. The psychological mechanisms we just described are automatic. They are largely unconscious, and people in positions of power can exploit them, whether they realize it or not. There's a concept in organizational psychology called hierarchical stress induction. Leaders who use unpredictability, warm one day, cold the next, praise publicly and criticize privately, generate significantly higher anxiety and compliance in their teams. Sound familiar? This is not accidental leadership style. In many cases, it is a learned behavior that works. A team running on mild anxiety is a team that works harder to seek approval. A team that doesn't challenge. A team that shrinks. There's also the spotlight effect of authority. People in the presence of a high-status individual become hyper-aware of their own behavior, redirecting cognitive resources from doing good work to managing the impression they're making. You're not performing worse because you're less capable. You're performing worse because part of your brain is permanently occupied with tracking the authority figure in the room. And the trap: the more their approval matters to you, the more power you hand them over your emotional state. The more power they have, the more like a child you feel. The system feeds itself. Here's the reframe that changes everything. The feeling of being small in the presence of authority is not evidence that you are small. It is evidence that you are human, and that your brain is running a program that is millions of years older than the concept of a performance review. But here's what the research on power dynamics actually shows. The authority figure in the room is also running programs. They are also managing anxiety about being challenged, about losing status, about being seen as inadequate. The performance of confidence and authority is often exactly that, a performance. Studies on cortisol levels in leadership positions consistently find that people at the top of hierarchies often experience significant stress around maintaining their position. The power dynamic runs both ways, it just isn't visible from below. And perhaps most importantly, the people who feel least like children in the presence of authority are not the ones with the most confidence. They are the ones who have consciously named what is happening. Naming the program interrupts it. When you feel that familiar shrinking, and you think, this is my nervous system running an ancient deference response, not a real assessment of my worth, something changes. Not immediately, not completely, but the automatic becomes slightly more deliberate. The unconscious becomes slightly more visible, and visible things can be changed. So what do you actually do with this? First, name it when it happens. The moment you feel yourself shrinking in someone's presence, say it internally. This is transference. This is cortisol. This is an old program running in a new context. You don't need to believe it fully yet. Just name it. Naming creates distance between the feeling and the behavior. Second, prepare your adult voice before you enter the room. Before a difficult meeting, a performance review, a conversation with someone who holds power over you. Take 2 minutes to recall a specific moment where you were genuinely capable, not to perform confidence, to remind your nervous system that the child who needed approval and the adult you are now are not the same person. Third, notice the performance on the other side. Next time you feel small in the presence of authority, look carefully. What are they doing to maintain that dynamic? Unpredictability, withheld approval, strategic coldness. Seeing the mechanism in them makes it harder for the mechanism to run invisibly in you. You are not a child in that room. You are an adult running a child's program in a system that benefits from you never noticing the difference. Now you have noticed. If this explains something you felt for years but couldn't name, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to understand the next invisible power system quietly shaping your behavior, that video is already waiting.